How far is it from Shirtless Haven Gearbox to Horse's Rare Dentistry? 400 footsteps. Far enough for 4 people who barely know each other at the start. Far enough for you to nearly take her out with that hedge survey stick. For us to fantasize about who we are if anyone should ask why it says British Airways on your high-vis vest. To find out that you're doing this survey in your lunch hour. Far enough for us to imagine the legendary escaped sheep whose wool we find caught on the raspberry cane. Discover that your lambing has started. Triplets and a loss, all in a night's work, and yet here you are. Far enough for me to miss the boys you ask about. To chuckle with the crow because we recognise his sound. To miss the solitary bee that you tried to show me. To worry we have missed your supermarket delivery. Not far enough for me to find in my brain the name Nibblewort. Maybe that's because you're a man and I couldn't say that in front of you. Far enough to laugh with you about a ring-necked pheasant, because I'll wring his neck if he continues to eat my flowers. For you to mention Ella Campaign and that to conjure up Karen Dietz singing Marion Leal. Far enough for you to acknowledge that all of this is getting to you, because I can see it in your eyes and the crease of your chin. I tell you, not that it helps, then I've seen it in others too. For me to stop myself from voicing that we are just at the beginning of this destruction as they construct across the countryside. How far is it from Shirtless Haven Gearbox to Horse's Rare Dentistry? 200 metres. Enough distance to not be able to see one end from the other, or recognise an old friend who stops in his car to chat for a while, exchanging news. To wonder what near misses and catastrophes this road has witnessed. Enough distance to collect a pile of litter, including a glass bottle, 2 coffee cups, 3 drinks cans, a car fog light, no gearbox, 1 pair of size 13 boots, several baby wipes, and shreds of plastic feed bag. Enough distance to wave at 4 cars who pass in the hour that we are here. To discover a stream we have not recognised before. Talk about where it may flow from and where it might flow to. Not enough distance for more than one of us to make it to the field side, where you can see the bank held together by the roots of this old beech, where you can see the bark is all knotted and knurled, open for all the bug life, bird life, bat life that we cannot possibly understand today. Enough distance to notice how the light changes as the bank on one side rises and the trees form a tunnel across the road. How that would have grabbed my imagination when I was a child. To wonder how Constable would have painted it. How far is it from Shirtless Haven Gearbox to Horse's Rare Dentistry? It took us an hour. Time enough to identify species in the hedge. Beech, hawthorn, holly, sycamore, ivy, dog rose, bramble, raspberry, gooseberry. Time enough on an April morning to name life in the verge. Nettle, dead nettle, campion, thistle, hogweed, umbellifers, dock, garlic mustard, honesty, yarrow, forget-me-not, Woodhaven, Alcanet, Coltsfoot, Nibblewort, vetch, plantain, dandelion, various grass species. Time enough for Chat PD Tips, your nickname, to get it wrong. And plenty of time to spot spiders, snails, solitary bees, to hear chiff-chaff, meadow pipit, goldfinch, linnet, chaffinch, corvids, wood pigeon, robin, and for Merlin to agree it was a meadow linnet you heard. Not enough time to think about the fungi, the ants, the caterpillars. Time enough to show the succession from seedling to leaf shape to flower clusters. To lean into and part the branches as best we can, to wonder at the intricacies of nest lining. A time to accept that various grass species will have to cover it. How far is it from shirtless Haven gearbox to horse's rare dentistry? Far enough for four people who barely know each other at the start to know by the end that they are long-time friends. Friends who want to go back and count the 67 trees that grow through the hedge. Friends who'd like to know who planted this hedge, how long ago that was, to wonder who passes it every day, whose journey home will change forever, whose dog could tell exactly which creature runs through that gap. Friends that notice how some of those tight buds have loosed their grip and let soft, impossibly green leaves burst out. Friends who try not to imagine the chainsaws, the diggers, the piles of earth, the reek of fresh tarmac, the dust, lorries, waste. Friends who grieve together because somewhere there is an office where we surmise there is no green thing or even a window, but there is a desk on which this 200 metres of hedge is merely the distance between two fingers on a map. And this hedge and we are just an inconvenience slowing this great industrial lorry.